Passport. These are all the dependencies you have to have per user all.
This is for the
just not for everything. Just check what you need.
in the package trace.
Yes, just check what you have already.
Okay.
Okay, so let's close all these.
Oh wow.
This is yours, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Money.
This is like a sticker.
Oh.
Okay, so I think we are ready. Yeah. On browser.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, and then I think we might need to refer back to Corey's code. Okay, so to just recapitulate, if that's the word.
Recapitulate.
Reiterate.
Yeah, that's not a word.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Decapitators.
No, that's not what I meant. Okay, let's get down to business. So we have this app that we left off, which
It's a word.
in English too?
Give up or
No, recapitulate.
Recapitulate.
Okay,
It means
cool.
to resume, to continue.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Bang.
Okay, so you all remember this app, right? It's a very simple backend. It basically only let us log in. So let's run this just to see. So NS, let's do front end. NS, that's just my npm start. I'm gonna do that with the front end. I'm gonna do backend. Okay, so now we have our backend and front end, and this is the app. Very, very simple app. Oh, actually, I need to, just 1 second, I need to run my SQL server, my Postgres server. Let's do that here. You guys don't need to do this because you already have it running. Now let me just see that I can log in. Cool. If it appears here, it means that I'm logged in. Let's just check the state of the app to see the way we're handling this. I'm just gonna go to React, see what our component structure is. So we can see in app, we have the user. Yeah, the user that's logged in. We have is logged in true, we have the ID. So this is a sign that we have the user logged in the back, right? And logged in is true. We can see what happens when that is false, right? Okay, so now we don't want to use, let's think about, so you all were trying to do it with Redux, and then what was like give me the high level approach that you were trying to go with this.
For the login?
I mean, like, describe to me what you were trying to do with the login with Redux. Like, what would, yeah, I guess, like, just describe it to me. What you tried.
What were you thinking?
Pretty much, like, well, I'm doing Pinterest, so having like an authentication page, which would be like the login or sign up page.
Okay, yeah.
And that would be broken into either like sign up form or login form. And that authentication page also has a container where it's receiving like the logic for it to work. And then actions and a reducer, and then I'm separating the actions into also utilities.
Okay, so you have something called utilities too. Is that?
That just starts the access call.
The access calls, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now what were some of the actions that you have? So where do you put your actions?
I have my action session and action authentication. So for like the action session, I have like new user, login user, logout user, or check authentication status, which is kind of like if it's logged in.
Okay. But so that means you have in your front end, your source, you have something. Oh, let me plug in this.
Folder.
Oh, I'll have to run it. Not really.
Which one you use? Which one are you using?
So so just because I don't know all these by memory, let's create our actions folder, or like what is the structure that you're using for Redux? You have like in source
I have actions.
actions. Those are folders, right?
Reducers, components. I have it stored in a folder, but like it's not necessary.
Okay. So basically, reducers. So let's just go with actions and reducers. Cool. So let's set up Redux. I think if I check my packages in the front end, I don't think I have. Yeah, I don't have Redux. So let's install Redux. npm install.
But you have the passcode and everything, right?
Yeah, I do have those. So let me go in the front end. Let me do npm I. This is the same as npm install. We needed Redux.
React Redux.
React Redux.
I don't know if you wanted to use Redux log or Redux.
Oh, we're gonna use Redux stock. Is that like that?
Yep.
Do we need to install Redux and React Redux separately?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So after that, we have in our app, I think, or some of you might have done it in your index. Let's just do it in the index. That's a little bit more clean. So here we import Redux. You guys are gonna need to help me here. Okay. Provider that comes from
React Redux.
Redux. That's a capital P, right?
Yeah.
And create stored comes from Redux?
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
don't need it here. We would have it in the store. We have it here.
Here.
So yeah, but the thing, I'm gonna do it here, so I don't create another file. Where do I import them from? That comes from Redux.
So you don't need Redux. Yeah.
Cool.
Create store.
We need a store, right? And here we have like the root reducer. Do you have a root reducer or anything? Okay. Root reducer. Okay. Anything else that I might be missing here? Oh, and then we wrap all these in a provider.
What about the stuff that was like middleware? Oh, we don't have this.
Oh wait, let me fix this. Okay. So we have this. This looks fine. Now we need to import a root reducer, right? You do this like this. Root reducer. From root reducer. Reducers.
But don't you have to have the thing?
From the reducer file folder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then.
And then this is root reducer. Okay. Okay, so this looks fine. We should have npm here. This should be breaking. Okay, I need something over here. Here, and this is gonna break. We don't have a root reducer.
Yeah.
So let's write our root reducer. Let's go to reducers. Create a new file. Root reducer. Head up. Oh no, this is correct, right?
Just in case you raise, you meant like it's a comma, not a.
Where?
What?
Where?
Nothing's correct.
This is
I just
correct.
thought it was a comma.
Yeah.
instead of-
Root reducer, okay. So here we're gonna need combined reducers, right?
Yeah.
So let's go. Reducers. Equal, no?
Oh,
Import.
Import.
Forgot about how to do this. From Redux. Okay, and then export for default. Something that we're gonna call root reducer. And here we have something. Oh, actually, I think this was the root reducer is gonna be equal to. This is going to be equal to combined reducers, if I'm not mistaken. And then we're going to pass a list of reducers here, right?
Yeah.
Am I missing anything important here?
Also, right? Authenticate.
So we're going to create a reducer for the authentication, right?
Yeah.
So let's just call it auth reducer,
So it's,
just like that.
uh,
And then just import it. Auth reducer. That's gonna come from current directory, a file called auth reducer.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's just write that. Yeah. Any comments?
In there, don't we need to pass in an object for the combined reducers?
Oh, I think you're correct. Yes.
Because we pass in a key and a value.
Actually, I wanted to take this opportunity for doing some documentation. So I recently found this one. Look, the documentation for combined reducers.
Okay.
Look at what it says. Oh wait, no, this is not. Where am I?
almost 12.
Docs. API, combined reducers. So yeah, this one says combine reducers and receive something called reducers. Let's find out what that is. So arguments, this is reducers. It's an object, and then it has to be an object whose values correspond to different reducing functions that need to be combined into one. See the note below for some rules. Every pass reducers must follow. Okay. returns a function on the reducer then. It's not. Okay, yeah, these notes. This function is mildly opinionated, is skewed towards helping beginners avoid common pitfalls. This is why it attempts to enforce some rules that you don't have to follow if you write the reducer manually. Any reducer passed to combined reducer must satisfy these rules. For any action that is not recognized, it must return the state. Okay. It must never return undefined. If the state given to it is undefined, it must return the initial state for the specific reducer. Okay, actually, I'm not seeing what piece of the documentation that I really wanted to show. Huh. Oh yeah, no, it is here. You can control, wait, let's see. No, I skipped the most important part. As your app grows more complex, you'll want to split your reducing function into separate functions, each managing independent parts of state. So the combined reducer helper function turns an object whose values are different reducing functions into a single reducing function you can pass to create store. We know that, right? This one is actually one that I didn't know until recently, but I thought it was good to know. The resulting reducer calls every child reducer and gathers their result into a single state object. The state produced by combined reducer namespaces the states of each reducer under their key as passed to combined reducers. So what that means is that each reducer, if we leave it like that, actually, the right way will be something like this. Auth. So this reducer is going to manage as part of the store or the state that's going to be called auth. Cool. Okay.
So let's say if we have like another, like let's say user is a user or
okay. What would that one do? Maybe like, let's say something you're doing posts. Post.
Yeah.
Post reducer.
Yeah, so the state is gonna look like that object with like auths, and that object that contains all the auth stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And what gets passed to the auth reducer is only the auth part. You don't get any of the other stuff. Cool. So we got that down. Let's write this auth reducer.
Maybe move that comment there.
Yeah, that's oftentimes not a problem, but it's good to keep just good practice. I'm trying to see if I could open it from here. No, let's just write it. So an auth reducer. Yes. Let's just export it here. So a reducer is just a function, right? And then what do we get? What do we pass? What is passed to the reducer? Yes, and something else.
State? No.
And then some people like to do initial state. And this is why we made you think about your state of your apps, because here we're gonna need to think about that. So this initial state is the state for the auth part. So yeah, it's not this initial state for the entire store. We're dividing the store into multiple parts of it. Okay. So what should the auth part be?
Should have a user.
Yeah, user.
Yeah, I think you should have the user here. Maybe this would be an object. And should it start at empty object? Should it start as null? yeah, I think I don't really have an opinion against one or the other. So anything else?
Email? I mean, the user is like username or is like user?
So this is gonna be the user object. So
The user object is gonna have everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
he's gonna have the email, stuff like that. Okay.
Is logged in or not? So,
Whether the user is logged in or not.
yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think if we have a user, it's
Yeah.
makes the login.
The business they're logged in. Yeah, no, that's actually how would we know if we have a user?
Hmm.
I mean, like, yeah.
User is not empty. It's logged in.
But the thing is that it's not empty. Yeah, we need to check that this is not an empty object. We could check with, if we try to key into this and we say if user.username, then we have a user. Because if we try to key into this,
Yeah.
this is gonna give us undefined, right? But I think I like the more explicit way, which will be actually having here is logged in. This door is false. Well, I think this looks pretty much any cool.
So I think for some now we still need to whether the authentication is something wrong or not.
We need to see, okay, like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good point. So what do you guys think about that? Like, what if the authentication goes wrong?
Error? Yes.
For example, just want to log in or just send out, but already have a username already exists. They will have a.
Or like, let's say you type your password and username wrongly.
Something
So I think to Leo's point is we could keep another thing here, hold it, maybe message. Message. I'm gonna keep a message, a welcoming message, or any other, like the kind of message that you get on your apps, like, oh, that username is taken.
Got it.
So yeah, we could do that. I don't think we're gonna have time to implement the message, but yeah, this looks pretty good. Let's do. Let's see. Wait, auth reducer is not exported. Oh, that's because I did. Here, if you see, I destructure it, and here I'm importing the default. I mean, I was exporting the default. So this, I see that people are having a lot of trouble with that, but just remember that if you do this, you're destructuring. That means you're exporting individual stuff, like in this case. Otherwise, then it's just default, and you don't need to destructure here. Okay. Okay, and let's just fix this other error. Root reducer is not exported from root reducer. Let's see. Oh, that's the same column, right? I'm exporting default here, but I'm trying to destructure here.
Yeah.
So let's just get rid of this one. Okay, so now let's do the reducer, the auth reducer, or maybe the actions. What do you think? What should we do first?
We finish this part of the auth reducer so that we move into actions.
Okay, cool. So the auth reducer, it gets past the state, and it gets past an action. Now, what do we want to do? Like, what are some of the actions that we're going to pass? Like, very broadly and vague. What are some of the actions that these reducers are going to handle?
Like login user, logout, or create new user.
Send out.
Okay, I think.
Isn't the sign off and log out the same thing?
Same thing, yeah.
Oh yeah, they are. Sign up.
Yeah.
Sign up. Okay, so this seems like a good type for our actions, right? So should we define some action types or just do strings? How do you feel more comfortable with?
Yeah, I think action types.
Yeah, I actually like action types too.
We
So
can do it in here.
in the reducers, right? Or actions.
Actions.
In actions, let's create a folder. Let's create action. Here we're gonna have const. So log in. Uh,
1G.
1G. Okay, yeah. Login, I think it's. I'm not sure if we should call it like something like auth login. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we be a little bit more specific? Doesn't really matter.
Well, let's do auth login.
We just have one.
We have one login, right? So-
Yeah.
So we're gonna have log out. And sign up. Let's go on with these ones. Cool. So here we're gonna have a switch statement, right? Switch. And then we're gonna do that on the action type. And then we're gonna have cases. Case, it's like that. Okay, and then wait, let's import the.
I didn't catch what the main benefits to do action types because I always forget to import. I would prefer to put a comma.
Okay. So we're gonna need 3 more. Oh. The other one.
Sign up.
And one should do log out,
One more.
sign up, and log out.
Sign up.
Want to sign up.
This one is sign up.
No, this one is log
Log
out.
out.
So what do we log out and sign up? Sorry, we're just missing sign.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
Actions.
bring some records.
Okay, it's now the case in which we have login. We want to do something.
Return something.
We want to return a state, a modify state. So I think we're gonna need some changes, and I like, you see how Corey did it in here, where he has something like, let me show you your. has received movies, received people, received locations. I actually like that language because basically what we want is, so when the user is trying to log in, we wanna, yeah. So when the user is trying to log in, your app is probably gonna display, I don't know, like a spinner or something to indicate the user that is in the process of being logged in, right?
Yeah.
And once the user kind of arrives, then we just redirect them to some other route and save the user. So I'm actually thinking about kind of changing that language here, because, well, the login, we're gonna dispatch an action that is the one that's actually gonna log in the user. So I'm trying to come up with a better naming.
Yeah, I think we can just
That could be a
call them like
homework
receipt user or
exercise.
something.
That could be a homework exercise. We could be forced to come up with a better name. And for now, you could just give something that we'll just have to.
Well, Leo, what you were using, like login success, login error, and that's actually pretty cool too, because let's go with yeah. I'm gonna go with that approach. So I'm gonna do this /success. Success.
Okay.
Just remove the auth.
Let's remove the auth.
Welcome.
And login error.
Need a break.
Break.
I need a break. I'll make it up.
So,
How do you set this whole keys?
Doing Redux is not too
You
bad.
just have to roll
No,
things
it's
somehow and you just
Don't even
kind of.
bother.
so I guess like the login success will kind of be like receive user, basically. But now we need the same for failure. Logout, we don't need logout failure, right? Like when you log out, like it's not gonna tell you, oh, you cannot log out.
Stay here.
What do you guys think on that?
Okay, fine.
Cool. Let me just search for success so that I can change everything to failure. Is that correct?
One extra I after L. Failure.
Yeah.
Failure? No, something's missing.
No, that's
That's
it.
good, correct.
That's it.
Okay.
Control D.
Oh, I couldn't do it my way.
No,
And
no,
this
no,
one,
no.
sorry.
Copy from the first one.
The thing is that I don't have cap locks. Okay, now we have these action types. And then now we can do, oh, now we have to do this.
You can probably copy it like with the command C. Two C's.
Well,
That's
we said we don't need
that's
that
what-
one, right? Ah. Login success, we had that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, only failure. It's not failure.
Okay. Okay. So we have all these actions. We can remove this. So the case where the login is successful, what do we want to do?
Return users.
So we want to return the new state, right?
Yeah.
So here it's important that we do not return, we do not modify the original state. We always need to return a copy of it, a modified copy. And there are multiple ways of doing that.
What's this for?
Yeah, we could spread it here. Then what is this state gonna have?
Wouldn't you wanna modify the user inside state?
Yeah, and we could, well, yeah, we could do that still with this, because if I do /user, now I'm gonna modify it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now the state has a key called user, but now it sees this user key, and then it's gonna replace it. So this is another way of doing that. So yeah, and Corey does freeze. Let's just go over that one more time.
Freeze?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freeze.
So that he makes sure you don't.
Yeah, object that freeze.
All right, like the one that I like, the one in the official documentation, which says something like return object that assign the object state, and then my other object here. So basically, these two ways are the same. They're essentially doing the same. Object that assign is taking this new object and it's going to assign all the keys from state into this new object. And after it's done that, it's going to assign all the keys from this object into whatever was here before. And then it's going to see that the user key is a new key. And it's going to replace it. Okay. Get rid of this. Cool. So the user. So where is the user going to come from?
Action dot
Payload.
Payload.
Main.
So yeah, this here there are like here you can go with whatever makes sense to you. It could be just payload, or it could be just action that user. Yeah, I guess. Any preferences?
user.
Action that user
What is this that user refer to?
is going to refer to something that is going to come in the action object.
Okay, and in the action object we will say user something something.
So the action object is going to look something like this.
Login text. Login text.
Well, you get the idea.
Yeah.
And then user is going to come here.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they use payload a lot?
So that's like, I think what I like about payload is that I will use it universally. So I know that all my actions will always have a payload key. Because in this case, yes, for this user, my action is going to have a user key, but for like fetching all the nodes or all the posts, then that action is going to have like posts, right? And that's okay, but I feel like doing payload will be a little bit more uniform. In like anything that comes is going to come always on a key payload. And
And if we
Yeah.
have payload, it will go after the equal sign and before the brackets, it will be part of the object. It will be line 15. It will be action equals payload colon.
here will be payload, and then an object.
Okay, right. Okay.
Something like this, if
Yeah.
I'm correct.
Yeah. Type and payload.
Cool. So let's go with this action user. Okay. And here we're gonna do is logged in, is logged out, is logged in. True.
Send out a message.
And yeah, we could even set a message. Welcome. And now we need to basically do the same for everything else. So let's just, never forget the break.
What break for?
Before.
Oh, but actually, wait. Break? Do we need break? No, because you're returning, right? Yeah, okay. Another case. This one is gonna be login failure.
Is login false? Messages failed to log in or something?
Yeah, maybe here we want the user to be back to.
No or something? I'm good. I did it again. You're good. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You want this one?
Basically do the same for. I don't like the case that the case don't have like curly braces to know where they start and end. What is another one? Or should we test this before we move on?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Let's just test this too, yeah.
Already tested.
Okay, so we have our reducer. Now we need to define some actions to dispatch for these reducers. So what are we gonna call this?
Auth action. Auth action.
Auth actions. Okay. Where is gonna go here? Well, I know that we're gonna use the action types. So let me just copy them from here. Okay, what are some of the actions that we're gonna dispatch?
Export costs. Login.
Okay.
These are only actions for like authenticating.
So actually, these are going to be actions creators or generators. So these are going to return objects. They're going to return action objects. And this doesn't have to be this way, but it's just like a nice standard. Maybe this. So, okay. The login user is gonna, so remember, this is gonna return an action. So this has to have a type. It also has to have a, well, in our case, a user,
Yeah.
right? So login. So, okay, so here, I don't know what would be a good convention, because we're gonna have like, another function is the one that is actually gonna make the network request to log in the user. This is not making the network request, so because of that, I'm a little bit, I'm thinking that this is not a good name for this action creator. Where did I go? What's doing that?
When you make the login request, you're doing it through a query, right?
To a web, say that again?
When you make a login request,
Mhm.
you're doing that through a query?
To a query, like
Like a SQL query, it's
no, I'm making the login request is a network request that our front end is gonna send. So let's see. Let me just see what his convention is. Receive people. So basically, he named the same as the action type. And I kind of like that. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's do, okay, so that we don't confuse ourselves, the action creators are gonna be in camel case instead of uppercase, or I guess, yeah, the same convention that he has. The action type is capital, and then the action creator is just camel case. So log in. I don't know, some people do the entire thing.
Yeah.
Let's just do it like this.
no, I think, oh,
Login success. So, and okay, we're gonna see something interesting here. So, login success, we get the type from login success. Okay, login success and the user. Where is the user gonna come from?
That's it.
We're gonna pass it in. From where? We're gonna see from where. Cool. Okay, this is a good action creator. Let's do another one for logout. Actually, login failure. Oh. Failure. Do we need the user here? But we don't need the users here. Let's make sure that we don't actually are using it in the reducer. Yeah, we're never using action that user here. So we can safely say that we could skip it. We can skip it, and when we skip it, then because we're doing this spread operator, it's gonna
Still there until one day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it's gonna set it to empty here. Cool. We are in our actions. Okay.
We remove the comma, right?
Oh. Cool. Then what was the other thing that we were trying to? What was the? We haven't. Okay, we just have these two. Okay. Let's do. Cool. This is all coming up really nicely. Now we need to think about, okay, this function, we're gonna dispatch these actions creators basically. And the thing is, okay, where and how are we gonna dispatch those?
Would it be in the container?
Would it be the container? Okay, yeah. And this is like in the container. What we're gonna do is we're gonna dispatch an action that's gonna dispatch an action. So in the container, we're gonna dispatch an action, say login user, right? And then that login user action. So that login user action is gonna dispatch, depending if the user login was successful, is gonna dispatch another action called login success or login failure. So, but okay. So we need to do that one in here because that is an asynchronous operation, and we need to have Redux understand asynchronous stuff because by default, Redux only works with synchronous data. And for that, we need Redux thunk. And actually, this is a good moment. I read this recently, and I thought it was pretty cool.
I think you can use promise also.
Promise, yeah, I haven't used that one. I don't know how different it is, but we can look at it here. I read this, and this was really cool. Oh, wait. No, not this one. Middleware.
You found your
Yeah.
documents to be useful?
Oh yeah, I love
The
the documents.
documentation?
Yeah,
Okay.
like especially in Redux, React, Express, they have great documentation. That's like, yeah. So I read this. If you haven't read this, I think it was gonna help you understand more how to do a synchronous flow. Like, yeah, read like this, and even do the basic if you still feel like the basics not like cemented enough. So yeah, here we can say without middleware, Redux store only supports synchronous data flow. This is what you get by default with create store. So we need to enhance create store with this apply middleware. But yeah, it lets you express asynchronous actions in a convenient way. And then here we get into the middleware. And this is really, it's cool because they take you over how to accomplish asynchronous stuff from multiple attempts you can see here. And each one is like guiding you towards how they decided to do it. And yeah, that's like, I really enjoyed it. I suggest that you guys read it too.
Wait, so I implemented Redux thumb, but I'm gonna be using it wrong, right? So all it is you're installing a package.
Yeah.
You import it and then you throw it into your store.
Your apply middleware, to the create store, yeah.
Okay.
And well, this is another thing that I remember when I was like learning Redux, and I was thinking about like, oh, another like library that's gonna like import more code, and then I was like looking at, so this is, okay, let me show you Redux. Redux is, like sometimes these things might appear scary, but like look at what Redux is. Redux is literally these files, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 files. I bet you can read the entire Redux source code in like a day. And then you will really, like, by inspecting the source code, like you will really understand it. But sometimes, like most of the time, we don't really need to read the source code. Like the documentation is enough. But yeah, just like, don't be scared. For instance, like the Redux thunk, look at how many files it has.
I think it's like 2 lines of code.
It's one. It's one file, and we could write this ourselves without needing to import another package, without really like needing to install it. Cool. So this is all it is, and it might seem like cryptic here, but yeah, if you guys read this, then you will get what's happening here. And in fact, actually, let me show you here. I think the final approach. So let's see. I think they have here what. No. Let me see. Yeah, you see, this is thunk. Like this is the same that you have here. This is, well, actually, it's not quite, but this part it is. So thunk is a it's a function that returns a function that returns a function. And this is called, I think, currying. If you're interested, you can. Yeah, you can read about this, but it's basically, yeah, like, so thunk is a function that will receive the store as is right. The first function receives the store. Now after that function is done, that function returns a function that whose argument is gonna be something called next, and that after that function is invoked, that returns a function whose argument is gonna be called action, and then the last function has access to store next and all the others. That's why you can do store.dispatch and or something like next, because this last, and this is also related to something called closure, which is, yeah, how this last function is able to access the store, is able to access next, because this thing created a closure that keeps the value of them.
Wait, so
cool. So okay, so let's see. I want to take a little bit longer in here. Let's do async flow. Let's see again here. I'm trying to see where it says. Wait. 7 examples. I think I should have taken note of where it actually said what I wanted to show you, but yeah. So actually, let's see if we have a definition of middleware here. So here they say that like middleware for Redux is very similar to middleware for Express, kind of the same concept. And this might be worth noting. It provides a third-party extension point between dispatching an action and the moment it reaches the reducer. So that's what Redux thunk is gonna sit in the middle. Yeah. Basically, our actions are gonna pass through Redux thunk, and then Redux thunk is gonna decide on
if it's a promise or not.
Actually, let's write it and then we can try to understand it. Let me just put this back. You're here. So do you want to install Redux Thunk, or do you want to just write it?
Yes, install it.
Yes, both.
Redux Thunk.
It's kind of one of those things in the middle
So
between the actions and the reducers.
yeah, it's gonna be something that is gonna before before it reaches your reducer, is gonna execute. Cool. Now we have Redux Thunk. And
index, right? Index, not Redux.
yeah, actually, let me show you the apply middleware documentation. It's here. Oh no, not here. Here. Apply middleware. So we're gonna use this function, and this function is it says middleware lets you wrap the stores dispatch method for fun and profit. The key feature of middleware is that it's composable. Multiple middlewares can be combined together, where each middleware requires no knowledge of what comes before and after in the change. Okay, and they go on to like the most common case is middleware to support asynchronous operations. Middleware is not baked in to create store, and it's not a fundamental part of Redux architecture, but okay. No, this one is interesting. So the arguments that you pass to apply middleware, it says those need to be functions that conform to the Redux middleware API, and each middleware receives the stores and dispatch. Receives the stores, dispatch, and get state functions as name arguments, and returns a function. So here we can start to see here this.
Which means there are 3 arguments for some. Both for this of and middleware.
Here, yeah, this is what it's saying in, actually, not this one, this one. It's saying that that function, each middleware receives the store, dispatch, and get state. Look at them here. And also it says, well, functions as name argument and returns a function. So we can see the returning function here, everything after this. And then it's gonna say, that function will be given the next middleware dispatch method and is expected to return a function of action, calling next action. Yeah. And that's the second one. With a potential different argument or at a different time, or maybe not calling it at all. And then the last middleware in the chain will receive the real stores dispatch method as the next parameter. Thus ending the chain, okay.
Says that the last middleware in the chain will be next.
Yeah, so if we, well, in this case, we only are using one middleware, which is Redux Thunk. But like if we use like Redux Logger, so now there are 2. So let's say if we first do the Thunk, when Thunk calls next, what it's doing is calling Logger, and it's passing that action to Logger. And then once Logger sees that, Logger is gonna call next again, but next is gonna be what it says here. The last middleware in the chain will receive the real store dispatch method as the next parameter. So in the last one, this one is gonna be the dispatch. Cool? Okay, so after that, somewhat long. Documentation read. Now we could do. Now we can go to our code and actually do stuff. So let's apply the middleware. Let's apply the middleware. Where do we apply that? Index.js. Create store. Here we need to import. Wait, actually that comes from Redux, right? It comes from here.
Great, sorry.
Apply middleware. Then we can see here that yeah. If we go to the app API, we can see create store. Then the create store has require a reducer, which is a root reducer. And this square brackets means optional. So, oh wait, a preloaded state and an enhancer. Okay, look at this, preloaded state, any. The initial state, you may optionally specify it to hydrate the state from the server. Okay, it doesn't say much, but if you provide it, if you produce, okay. So I'm not using. Okay, no wait, no. If you produce reducer, we command reducers, then this must be a plain object. But then here enhancer, we see the store enhancer. You may optionally specify to enhance the store with third-party capabilities such as middleware, time travel, persistence, etc. The only store enhancer that ships with Redux is apply middleware. So does this mean that we have to do something like null and then apply middleware or no?
I think we use like an empty
Or
object.
else we use an empty object.
Empty object in the middle?
Yeah, I think.
I think in the beginning. No, in the middle.
Okay.
Middleware takes the.
Yeah.
Redux line.
I think it's just.
Just that.
Just thunk. And we're gonna do that from
It doesn't have.
oh, it's the default? The default export? Okay, this looks fine. Right? So now all our actions are gonna pass through thunk. And then okay. So let's look at thunk again. This is gonna be important. So let's look at what thunk is doing. Thunk is checking for if the action is a function. So you remember that in here we're doing most of our actions are just plain objects, are these things, right? But thunk is gonna check if the action is a function. Then I know that I need to do something special with it. So what it's gonna do is it's just gonna call the action, which, like, spoiler alert, our action is gonna be something like login user. So it's gonna call that action with the dispatch and the get state and this extra argument. And this is not very clear now, but let's just get to it. So we know that we know that we're going to dispatch a function instead of an action, or like the action is going to be a function instead of an object. So this is where we're going to do something like export const login user. And then this is going to, the login user is going to receive the user to log in here. Let's call the user credentials so that actually, let me, I'm not 100% on this one. Okay, so yeah, we basically need to implement this thing. So it is a function, but that receives the user credentials, and that is gonna return a function that receives dispatch. So I don't need these parentheses here. And well, actually, so where are we gonna keep the user and the username? Are we gonna keep it in the store once they're typing once they're typing in an input box, the username and the password? Are we gonna keep that in Redux store or in the component state?
We have it in the component state.
One state,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I like that. I don't see a need for keeping it in the state, in the store, in the Redux. So that's what this user's credential is for. User's credential is going to be an object that we pass with the username and the password.
Mm-hmm.
Cool? Yeah. Okay. So this is a function that returns, that is expecting a user's credential, and then it's going to return another function that's going to be past the dispatch. Cool. So now here is that we do our Axios call, or our network request. Here we do Axios, and imported Axios. People like uppercase. Axios that. Now how do we make a network request? This is like the old.
Yep.
Post.
Yeah.
What endpoint?
/users login.
Actually, oh, login. Yeah, right. This is because, just to refresh our minds a little bit, it's because in our users, in the backend routes, as you can see here, that's the route that we define. Mm-hmm. And just remember that all these routes are prepended with /users. Let's close this now that we have that. Let me close this. Here. Okay. So we're sending the request, and what are we sending? What is the payload, or yeah, like what data are we sending to with the request in the request body? And then here, always at that then, and always at that catch. So then we know that what do we pass to that then? Just a little bit of a trivia here. Really, yeah.
The user.
To the that then you pass a callback. And the parameter to that callback is res. And let's just console log res for now. And if there is an error, to the catch, you pass a callback function. First argument is the error. Cool. So now we have this this action that is not is not an object, is a function. Oh, cool. So now before we move on, we need. So you see, like this appears like opaque. That's because my editor tells me that if I'm not using it, it's gonna color it like that, so that I know that that I'm not using it. Okay. Now this is the action that we're gonna dispatch from within our components. This one is the one.
Yeah.
And then, so let's get to that. It's like it's like this is like it's a lot of moving parts. It's okay. So let's go. Let's see if we can at least get this one. Okay. So we have our action here. What do we do next? I would just want to be able to fire this action or dispatch this action from a component. So how can I dispatch this action from a component? Connect. That's a good one. Where are we going to use connect?
Container.
Container. Okay. Well, do we have containers? Components.
So let's say if we log in.
Logging, but okay. What about this? I think this auth is supposed to be an auth container.
Is that okay?
Yeah. So we can see here that here is where we were handling kind of this logic.
Yeah.
Instead of this logic, now we're gonna dispatch an action. So let's rename this auth container just because people have been like more used to that.
Yeah.
And then the app is going to break. Cool. Auth container. Okay. So here we were doing. We can get rid of this. Login display. Username, password. Okay, so here, like we have this function, login user, and this function was doing that. But this function is, we might leave the. You can leave this. But I don't know if it might be confusing. Login user, and then wait. So let's do the connect. How do we do the connect?
From Redux.
Oh. Okay, and then we're gonna do what else do we need?
Map state to props.
Map state to props, and I'm just gonna write them here. Like I think some people map state to props.
How decide whether we need which way map state or map dispatch?
Say that again.
How can we decide which one we need? Map state or map dispatch?
So that dispatch.
G's capital.
So that means if your component doesn't need to dispatch any actions, then you don't need this map dispatch to props. Let's say for some reason your component doesn't need to dispatch any action; it only needs to read from the state, and you only need map state to props. Or the opposite might be true, but I don't see a scenario where your component is going to dispatch an action but doesn't need to read state. I don't see one that case. I haven't seen it. I mean, yeah, but that's basically how you will know like when you need it.
Most of the case need a dispatcher action to the user, right?
Yeah, and then like in here we're gonna think about like, does this component needs to read the state of container, the store. So when I'm talking about the store, I'm talking about Redux, right? And the store is gonna have multiple states, and the state is just a key within that larger object store. Cool. So like, does the auth container, basically what I'm asking is, does the way that we have it right now, does the auth container needs to read the store? Okay, why? I think,
So,
yeah.
let's say we're logging successfully.
Yeah.
We want to display that message.
Yeah.
Or even the current user, we want to like, when the user's logged in, we like, welcome current user.
Exactly. I was initially thinking, no, this component is not gonna need anything from the store. But yeah, that's the message. Like if there is an error, like your password doesn't match, and we want to display that in the form, like under the form in a message, or however you want to do that. Okay, so let's do these two functions. Map state to props. What do we get here?
Stage.
Anything else? I don't remember, honestly.
Stage.
Let's read a little bit. I think, I'm not sure if this one actually talks about that. I think this does not talk about that. Let's see. Map state to props, immutable, React Redux container. So this doesn't. I was thinking about see if we had something that talked about map state to props. Doesn't seem like. Yeah. Okay.
So there's only one argument.
Sorry, where?
No, there's only one argument.
Oh, here, yeah, we can see one argument. Okay, that's cool. That's what we needed to do to see. So this one receives state, and basically this is literally saying what it does. I remember that for me initially it didn't make sense, the name, but it's literally mapping the state from the store down to your component as props. Cool. So these, okay. So our state, I believe our state here is not really a part of state. Is the entire store.
I see.
Yeah. So the language can be.
No, you were saying it's the entire store here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can like access
all the
things that
store.
you need.
Yeah.
Like specifically, like
yeah. This state is not going to only have auth, but right now we only have auth.
Yeah.
But
you're mapping to auth whatever you need.
Yeah.
Regarding auth.
Exactly, and we can see, yeah. Okay, so here we care about something called auth. So we know that this has to return an object, I think. Return, and then the key that we want. Let's just call it auth. Yeah, same as in state. Okay. We could have this structure here. That's what we wanted. Okay, I think that's the only thing. Then here we receive this patch. And then here, let's call it, let's create a function called login user. Login user. And this function is going to, it's going to be a function. Let's make sure it is a function. I'm going to call this patch. We're gonna dispatch our friend. Let me open it in here so that we can see it. It's gonna dispatch our friend, this one. So this dispatch here is gonna dispatch this function.
So can you please firstly explain what map dispatch to props? Just like as you mentioned for the map state to props, you meant that it just grab the state from the store and map it as a props in the components.
Exactly.
So what the dispatch to?
It's doing the same. Is mapping your whatever you want to dispatch from this component, and it's gonna pass it down to. Wait, what did I say earlier? It's gonna map this dispatch to props is gonna pass functions down to your component that are able to dispatch actions. And here you only want the functions that
Actions.
yeah, the actions, the functions that are going to dispatch the actions relevant for this component.
Map the actions to the two components as a props.
Yeah, so that in props, the component can say something like login user, and this is going to be the name. The component can do this props login user, and what's going to be doing, that function is going to be executing this function, the dispatching. Cool. So here we need to import this login user, and this is, I don't know if like naming it the same is the best idea. I hope you guys don't get confused.
I think that's something.
Cool. So we need to import this one into the Auth container. I'm gonna do import login user from actions, Auth actions. And we're good. Oh wait, did we end up React Redux? Okay, we're gonna use that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then here we are saying, okay, not here, here. Login user. Do we call it? Do we call it like this? Yeah. Because, so you remember what I was saying, like login user is gonna return, here we can see, it's gonna return a function. It's gonna return a function, this function.
Yeah.
Right? And then remember what I was saying earlier about func, that func is gonna see if the action is a function. And then it's gonna call action, but it's gonna call action, which is like this function is gonna call this function. And it's gonna pass dispatch. You see this dispatch here? Is this dispatch here?
Yeah.
And well, there we also have this other stuff, get state. If we needed the state for some reason, we could have them here as well. Cool. Okay, so now we know that this is gonna dispatch this. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the thing I can think of. Now let's. Oh, things in the user. Yeah, that's very important. We need something user credentials. Yeah. Cool.
Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, wait. Well, so I'm just gonna close this one. Here, I'm just gonna break it down. Oh no, I should have done that. Okay, is everyone on the same page?
Yeah.
Cool. So now the actual use of connect. How do we use connect?
The reason why we use user credentials is just because we use this as a key in the actions.
No, this user's credential is we're gonna pass the state from here, this one, this one. These are gonna be these are gonna be the user credentials.
Yeah,
And then
just now we just use user and you change to user credentials. I was thinking it's just because of in the actions in the
in the actions we said actions. Yeah, this one. Well, we don't have to name it the same, but here login user is expecting users credentials, and that with those users credentials is that login user is going to fire the network request. So remember that this doesn't have to be named the same. I just like that consistency. Okay. So login user dispatches that login user. And now for the final connect, we passed. Yeah, let me show you this one. I like the docs for this one, I think.
I never read so many.
Well, I'm gonna.
It's good.
Yeah.
Let's see what connect does.
This is the official.
Oh, but so yeah, this is the official, but connect doesn't come from Redux.
It comes from Redux.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they'll have good docs. Docs, API. Who knows what API stands for? I got asked that in an interview like recently.
I don't know.
Some interface.
Say that again? You're really close.
Yeah. Application.
Yeah. Programming.
Interface.
Yeah. An application programming interface is just the way that you interact with the application. Or yeah. So here we can see connect. And then connect says, the connect function connects a React component to a Redux store. That's a really good name. It does what it's supposed to. So here, it provides its connected component with the pieces of data that it needs from the store and the functions it can use to dispatch actions to the store. It does not modify the component class passed to it. Instead, it returns a new connected component class that wraps the component you pass in. And then here is where we see map state to props. This means that it's optional. This, and we got all this other stuff. Map state to props and maps dispatch to props deals with the Redux store state and dispatch respectively. State and dispatch will be supplied to your map state to props and map dispatch to props. And then the return, well, this is like more other stuff. Let's look at map state to props. Like Leo, you could read this and then maybe you'll have a better understanding.
So if a map state to props function is specified, the new web components will subscribe to Redux store updates. This means that
this is another interesting thing.
The store is updated, message to props will be called.
This is another reason for having it. Every time the store is updated, map state to props will be called.
The result of the map state to props cannot be a plain object. So it means that it cannot be a nested object. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So which will be merged into the wrapped components props. If you do not want to subscribe to store updates, pass no and
or undefined in place of. So that's what we said. Like if the component doesn't need the store for anything or any, then you just pass no, and it's not gonna subscribe to it. Okay, so yeah, read the docs. Okay, so when we know that we need to pass map state props, map dispatch props, and map this part, map connect, this part returns a function. This function that we're calling returns another function, and to that other function we're gonna pass our component. That's why we use this. That's why we use double parens, because and this part returns a function.
And the auth container is the argument for that.
Yeah, for that return function. Cool. Okay, I think we're almost there. This is exciting. So the auth container, let's look at. Okay, let's actually do a comparison here real quick. Delete until you find the second parenthesis. Let's see if I want to show you like the props for the auth container. So render. List props. The way it is right now, let's see what we have here. Okay, the backend is running. The front end, we have an error in auth container line 92 GG. Expected, okay. Oh, what's wrong here? Well, yeah. Let's go to our app. Okay, let's see this. Reducer auth return undefined during initialization. This is a common error. If the state passed to the reducer is undefined, you must, well, let's see. This is a long error, but this is saying that we forgot to add a default to our reducer. And a reducer in the first run, because Redux is going to pass an action called init to it, we need to make sure that our auth reducer has a default case. Default just returns. I'm not sure if you need to return a copy of it here or just this is fine. This is fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now we have all our errors. Cannot read property get state of undefined. So this seems to be something with provider. Oh, I think I know what it is. Let's go where we're dealing with the provider. Let me just do a search. I didn't know, but I like to search. You're doing provider in here. What do we forgot here?
That's the store.
Boom. Now the console is this thing. I have a bunch of stuff. So look at this. Oh wow, we actually have quite a few console logs. We shouldn't have that many. But for now, let's do this is auth containers props. And then we have all this stuff is being passed as props to the auth container. And this is, well, this comes from app mostly. History, location, and match comes from the route because auth container is a child of one route. And then set logged in user and static context. Well, that's undefined. But set logged in user, I don't know if you remember, but that one comes from app. And we can see in app that we have our route, right? Exact path, and then we say render auth. And then if we go to that function, render auth is a function that we pass this to things like logged in user. And we're not gonna use this anymore because now we're gonna keep the user in Redux. So let's get rid of this. Put this here. And what else? I think we could get rid of the set user store. User logged in the backend. We're gonna come back to that. Wait, what was it? The function? Set log. Yeah, this one. We no longer need this. Okay, let's just check this again. Okay, so this is cool. Well, yeah, this is the console that we first see. This is the props that we're currently passing. We see that it's only the route props. Now, to this, because I have, if you recall, I haven't connected it. I haven't connected my auth container. I'm just like that. But now let's see the difference when we connect it and see the props. So here we see auth container props. Now we have history. We have all the usual suspects, but we also have auth, which is our store, basically our state in store. We got the default, and we also get this login user, which comes from map dispatch to props. This is the map dispatch to props. You can see it here. This is that login user that we're seeing. This one actually. Okay, this is cool. Now let's go to, let's actually do something with that. Now we know that those are in the props for this auth container. So we can just call it. So you see login user here. This is like a lot of stuff called login user, but login user here is a method in the class. And we're using that method for, oh wow. We're using that method for like the network requests. Well, actually, let's clean up this before we move on. Handle sign up, we're no longer going to do this. Handle login, let's see what we're doing this handle login for. In any case, we're calling login user here. So here, we could just get rid of this one. And then the handle login, we're going to do, okay, now we're going to call the one from the props. And we want to pass the user credentials. And just because I don't want to pass login display, just do a username here. Oh, I'll need to do this structure. Oh. Okay, so according to this, the handle login, whenever we call this function, should be calling this function, which is going to dispatch the action to the store, and we should see a console log. So I think we are not setting the user yet to the store. We put, if you recall, in the action, I just console log here.
Yeah.
No, not here. Where did I put it? The actions. The other actions. Here, I'm just console log res an error if there's an error. So, but anyway, the point here is to see that we're actually dispatching this and this is actually firing. So let's get to do that. Handle login. Let's make sure the handle login, we're passing handle login somewhere. Handle login, we pass it to the handle component. So basically, you see, like we implemented Redux. Well, we haven't finished it yet, but login, we didn't need to change anything in login. Login can just stay. And because we use the same function in the login, that's all good. So I think if we go to our app now and we try to sign in, log in someone, we should see a network request popping up here. Let's see. If this, no, okay. So let's try to log in. Oh, we see a network request. We see, why is it? Oh, anyway, yeah, we see the network request. This is what it's 200, and then here we can see what we sent. Here we can see the response. And then let's see if we see this console logs. Okay, yeah, this is the console log that I said, console log res. This is that. Oh, this is fun. I've never seen this warning, but let's go back to what interests us. So this data, this is res. Now we can see that in here, something called data is actually our user. This is what we want to keep in our store. So knowing that, we can go to our actions again. Now we can do here. Do you remember that this is going to be an action? That's going to be a function that's going to dispatch another action. Now we're going to do dispatch. We're actually going to use the dispatch coming here. Dispatch. Login success. And here, login success, we can see here is expecting the user. And we know that the user is, just going to do it here, user equal res.data. No need for that data again. Up here, because user login success is doing that. Now we can do that. Okay, actually, let me just show you the before and after before we do this. I'm gonna log in status to 200, that's good, but we can see that, well, something interesting happened, which is we don't see another auth container props. And that's because we never updated the store. And because the store is never updated, we never fired another re-render. And that's, so I guess I wanted to show you the props just to see that, well, here we have auth. This is right before we sent the request. This is the console log from the request. This, right before we sent the request, this was the props. And then we can see the auth, login false, user empty. Now let's actually put it here. It's by dispatching this other action. And now let's see. So let's try to log in. Boom, we see that we now have another console log with props, and then here we should see our user. Yep, it's logged in true, message welcome, the ID. Just remember that we don't really want this, because, yeah. But we have our user in our Redux store. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's do the same for the error. Just like, so that we have some trace of the error, let's remove this. Login failure.
So here, there is no need to put a return over there.
Where?
Or line 12.
Line 12.
Put it right. Do we need to put a return?
No, we don't need a return here. This is a callback. To leave that, then you pass a callback, and that callback does not need to return. Okay. This was just moving the user from regular app state to Redux store.
Let's do the rest tomorrow.
I agree with that.
Why?
Just because.
Well, it's 9. It's pretty late. I think let's see how much recording do we have.
It wasn't recording.
It was.
No, yeah, it was. Oh, I would kill myself if it was not.
What about present to everyone?
Twice.
Oh, well, since we're broadcasting,
Present to everyone.
Is that now?
um,
Oh,
Well, the thing that.
well,
It's recorded, right?
we'll find out. Streaming. No. Anyway, we'll find out.
Well, do you have the link?
I don't have the line.
Do it a lot more faster.
Live stream offline.
Okay, so let's.
Stream live less than 1 minute ago.
Okay, because we stopped, right?
But I didn't stop. Okay. Hopefully it did record.
No, but then how do we know, like, where's the link?
I guess I could go to my channel. I have 4 subscribers. I didn't even know that. Oh, wait, what?
Getting hot.
Like, how do I give my profile, my channel?
Live now.
Redux.
Is it the?
This is live now?
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you the link.
Let's check. I'm sure it was recorded.
For Slack.
Oh.
Oh, okay. You guys want to do the rest tomorrow, or what?
let's finish tonight.
No, it's like, you know, it's not about my
Yeah.
podcast, it's about the handle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It would?
we check if it worked. So yeah, I think we're gonna leave here for now. This was pretty fun. I'm gonna stop.